When the weather outside is frightful, the Hyundai Santa Fe is, delightful. Because it's got available H-Track all-wheel drive to make being out together better. Enter for your chance to win the newly redesigned Santa Fe, packed with all the jingle bells and whistles you need to go dashing through the snow together. To enter, visit Amazon.com/Hyundai or scan the QR code on specially marked red and green Amazon boxes. No purchase necessary. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details. When the weather outside is frightful, the Hyundai Santa Fe is, delightful. Because it's got available H-Track all-wheel drive to make being out together better. Enter for your chance to win the newly redesigned Santa Fe, packed with all the jingle bells and whistles you need to go dashing through the snow together. To enter, visit Amazon.com/Hyundai or scan the QR code on specially marked red and green Amazon boxes. No purchase necessary. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. Well, here's investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and the show is brought to you by CartKing.com. Now, you can call 877-986-7771. Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Perhaps your current business wants to add multiple point-of-sale locations across the country quickly. Maybe the facility you manage could kickstart revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services. Well, CartKing.com can be the answer to your needs. CartKing.com is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile retail, coffee, and food carts and kiosks that money can buy. For 20 years, CartKing.com has been working with clients and corporations across America to provide indoor and outdoor carts and kiosks for any application. So what you do is you go to the website, cart-king.com. You check out the kind of cart that you think would apply to your business. You contact them, 877-986-7771. You tell them they'll custom build it for you, and then they'll ship it worldwide. So that's cartking.com. There's a little dash in there, too, between the cart and the king. Okay, we got today a real blockbuster for you. This is an incredible story. Our guest is Christopher Fulton. His website is cmfulton.com. Now, the book is called The Inheritance, Poison Fruit of JFK's Assassination. And basically what it is you know how the Secretary Lincoln, JFK's Secretary Lincoln, had a secretary named Lincoln. I guess they had some rocky ride over this. He actually wound up in prison over these documents that he obtained. Christopher Fulton, are you there?
Yes, Ed, thank you.
Thank you so much. What an incredible story. Tell us about yourself. Who is Christopher Fulton?
Oh, I came from a family that grew up outside of the district in Washington, D.C., and was supposed to go into the Naval Academy as a military officer, but I chose a career in commercial construction and wound up in Vancouver, British Columbia, building high-rise towers there.
Okay, and then how did you become involved? How did you obtain these documents?
A friend of mine, a close friend of mine named Robert White, he lived in Catonsville, Baltimore, and he became kind of the surrogate son to Evelyn Lincoln, who was President John F. Kennedy's personal secretary. And during that relationship, Evelyn Lincoln had been given a large amount of material that was devoted to the investigation that Robert Kennedy had done on his brother's death and assassination, and what was kept of the back of the Oval Office recordings and certain things kept away from the FBI's investigation and the Johnson administration. When Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, the instructions were clear to keep those materials suppressed for the protection of the Kennedy family and the children. And subsequently, when she passed away in 1995, those materials, the bulk of those materials, came to Robert White, and then I wound up with some key evidence out of those materials, and it went on from there.
Well, give us an idea. What is in the material?
Well, there was it's hard to scope it in completion, but we're talking about over $100,000 documents, personal correspondence, and of course Evelyn Lincoln's inside information about this, which instructions from Robert Kennedy and so forth. But I personally wound up with the closest physical evidence to President Kennedy's head wounds in the limousine in Dallas, and I wound up with the non-reviewed Oval Office recordings, which he was doing to keep people on record and keeping himself protected in that way. There was recordings that were happening at that time in the Oval Office and other places were secret for him personally. And Bobby Kennedy, of course, was reviewing those materials when he was assassinated, when he died, and those recordings. I was the first person to listen to those recordings since Bobby Kennedy's assassination.
Yeah, the book is over 500 pages long, and I suppose the last 200 about pages are just photos and documents and records and all kinds of stuff, right?
Obviously, in a federal investigation and a federal case file, there are boxes of documentation. My publisher had asked if I would submit some of those to be placed in the book. I gave him just a random amount of documentation to do so, and then he chose from that and placed some of those materials in the back of the book.
And a lot more of that material is available at cmfulton.com?
Well, you can see the materials that are in the book themselves, the ones that have been printed, and I highly suggest that someone does go to the website. You can see very clear images of those materials, which include the Justice Department information, the subpoena that was given to Robert White to testify in front of the Assassination Records Review Board, and I was supposed to testify as well. The Assassination Records Review Board under President Clinton was very concerned about the materials that come through Evelyn Lincoln, and they wanted to understand them to get a clear picture on the assassination of John F. Kennedy. So as this was proceeding, Robert White was very concerned that these materials would be confiscated and classified from him before the American public would get a chance to see them. And of course, that's exactly what happened. And he was contacted by President Reagan and given instruction. I was contacted by CSIS, which is the intelligence services in Canada at the time. And the American public has been blind to a lot of this. They have not been able to see what was taking place with the Kennedy family and the Justice Department during that period.
Well, give us a description then. What was taking place with the Kennedy family and the Justice Department?
Well, when I realized what we were involved with and what we were been given, what the enormity of what we had, I'd actually through my job or my work in British Columbia, I was invited to go to Moscow. And this was early on, and I went to Moscow and under the guise of doing updating flats in Moscow for the people that were coming in for oil production and international business. So I went there. I was invited to the Kremlin. As I was invited to the Kremlin, I met a gentleman there, and I didn't know who he was, but he turned out to be the head of their intelligence services, and he was starting to brief me on the fact that he was aware that we had inherited this material and what had taken place between them and Robert Kennedy to prevent World War III just after the assassination in secret. And here I am in the Kremlin, find myself in the Kremlin, kind of blindsided, being briefed by the head of their intelligence services and concerned about what we were going to do with these materials and did we want to release them through Russia without censorship. And of course, I got very panicked about all of that and just said, listen, I appreciate the meeting and I thank you very much for that, but I don't have any information that could be helpful. And I excused myself and was hoping I could get out of Russia, and I was very thankful to leave.
When you returned to the United States, were you debriefed by the CIA or State Department about your activities in Russia?
Well, when I returned to the United States, I remember coming in and I kissed the ground. I was very happy that I got out of Russia, but the U.S. government really had to play catch up on a lot of this. I know that they were notified. I found out later that they were notified. The CIA had been notified that we had received materials and they weren't sure the extent of what we had or what we do with them. So as this progressed, I actually tried to contact the Kennedy family. I contacted Caroline Kennedy in 1996. That was through Warren P. Whiteman, who was the vice president of Sotheby's. They'd handled the Jacqueline Kennedy sale, and I was told that would be a good way to make contact. So I did that. I taped materials in the room for about an hour. I was told to do this. I was very excited that she would contact discuss with Uncle Ted Kennedy, and did not want to proceed at that time for any kind of transfer material to the family. So we continued this process and tried to figure out the best way to handle it. We were looking at a book being put out. We were looking at a museum. Robert White was very desperate to open a museum for the American public and to show off what he could. But as this progressed along, the doors kept shutting, and the government, I guess, was learning as it was going along as we were. And we wound up in 1998 going to see Robert raise funds so that he can open up a museum. Now, I was invited to go into that sale, and I went into that sale, and the media began to gain attention. So CNN, my material was on CNN and Entertainment Tonight and multiple other programs in New York, and I was asked to do interviews, and I thought, my God, I'm not going to open myself up to that. I turned down every interview request that I had. Katie Couric had asked to interview me and so forth. I said, no, I'm not interested in doing that. But when that took place, the lawyers for the White House and the lawyers for the Kennedy family got involved. The Justice Department got involved. Other agencies got involved. The AARB, the Security Oversight Office, got involved who declared that Robert White and myself had items of national security concern. And when that took place, they were trying to figure out if they were going to shut that sale down. The Justice Department was going to shut it down. Private agreements were drawn up with Robert White, with the Justice Department and the Kennedy family. The FBI came in, I think, on maybe 2 or 3 different occasions, maybe more, and took materials from him for classification that should have been really shown to the American public so they could better understand what had taken place in Dallas. And those materials are now secured, and the American public will not get to see them. My name appears again in the ARB investigation under President Clinton on this, but again, I didn't get to testify. So we did a 30-day investigation with the archives and found that one of the important files on this, a whole box folder involved in these discretionary matters, are missing. They're aware that they were there and they're aware that they exist, but they're just gone. There's no pull slip on that from what agency or who pulled it, but they're not there for people to see. So when President Trump had attempted to go ahead and release these files to the National Archives, I'm aware that my material is not there. A lot of Robert White's materials are not there, and of course we've been notified through President Reagan that other materials have long since been removed that were pertinent, and those materials are missing. So even if there was a full release or disclosure at this time, the American public still wouldn't be getting the full picture. So I thought it was very important that I owed it to the people that had perished, including members of my own family, over this, that I write the book and not leave it in the lap of my children, but to bring it forward for the American people to decide for themselves.
What was Caroline Kennedy disturbed about when she saw the documents?
It was disinformation. White, not Tully, but he informed me that she was quite concerned about this, and I'm sure how far I want to go into it here, but with her or as soon as that myself and the family ended. So in 1996, I was not given direction on how to handle this, which would have been very beneficial for me at that time.
Now, Evelyn Lincoln first possessed this material, and it came into her possession. And now, but the FBI was unaware of what was in this material in order to make it classified way back then, before it got into her hands?
Robert Kennedy was in a desperate battle after the assassination. Within 24 hours of the assassination, Robert Kennedy was fully aware of basically aware of what had transpired in Dallas. He was faced with the enormity of how to handle this, and again, I don't think the American public understands what was at